A genius scientist accidentally logs out of his life and is reborn in the Joseon era, traveling hundreds of years across time and space. Fortunately, he is reincarnated as the crown prince of the Joseon dynasty, one of the most famous kingdoms in Korean history. There, he disrupts the established order by using future knowledge to reform his country. While other nations rely on oil lamps, his country uses electric lights. While others use horse-drawn carriages for transportation, his country has trains. While others go to war with swords and arrows, his nation dominates the battlefield with machine guns. This is the premise of Black Corporation Joseon. The story begins by showing the past of Jinho, our protagonist. From a young age, he demonstrated extraordinary intelligence. At just 5 years old, he could solve a Rubik's Cube, leaving his teachers and parents in awe. Their expectations soared when his IQ test revealed that he was a genius. However, their joy was short-lived because Jinho's brilliance was not in academics. Had he been born in an earlier era, he would have been a legendary inventor, etching his name in history with golden ink. Reality, however, was different. When it came to academics, Jinho's abilities were far below average, frustrating his parents to no end. They couldn't understand why their son, gifted with such a high IQ, refused to use it for studying. Kim Jinho, our protagonist, was a genius inventor. He could create anything with his hands. In high school, he built a model steam engine. In college, he designed a human-powered aircraft that required no fuel. But one day, an earthquake struck, causing him to drop an explosive substance, and just like that, he got his ticket to reincarnation. Jinho woke up in the body of a newborn baby. He quickly realized that his new family was far from ordinary. They were part of the elite. At first, he thought his parents were just wealthy nobles, but they were not only rich, they were powerful. His father was the crown prince, the fourth ruler of the Joseon dynasty in Korean history. Our protagonist was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, Jinho turned 4 years old. The current king decided to abdicate the throne to the crown prince. As a result, Jinho's father became the new king, and Jinho automatically became the crown prince. Like all royal children, he was required to start his education at an early age. But mentally, he was already over 30 years old. He found it infuriating to sit through basic lessons like a child. To escape studying, Jinho devised a plan to use his father to his advantage. In history, King Sejong the Great was known as a wise ruler. He valued knowledge and actively nurtured the talents of his people. Jinho's plan was to gather skilled craftsmen, teach them important future knowledge, and earn his father's trust and respect. He dreamed of living a luxurious life, reaping the rewards without working. However, first, he needed to appear diligent and studious to gain people's trust and manipulate them easily. The first step of his plan was to win over his teachers, as they would hold important positions in court once he reached adulthood. More importantly, he needed to train these individuals to become his loyal subordinates in the future. The next day, while on his way to his study, Jinho suddenly caught a foul stench. He looked around, wondering what was causing such a horrible smell. Then, right in front of him, he spotted a large pile of dung on the grass. He thought, seriously? Did people in ancient times relieve themselves anywhere they wanted? At that moment, a group of court maids passed by, bowing in respect to the crown prince. Jinho was about to continue his walk, but the foul smell hit his nose again. He turned and noticed that the last maid in the group had accidentally stepped on the dung, staining her gown. Jinho was furious. He realized that the culprit behind this mess was a palace maid. As someone from the modern world, he could not tolerate such unhygienic behavior. Determined to prevent this from happening again, Jinho decided to take action. Later, Jinho spoke with his teacher. On my way here today, I saw a maid with dung on her gown. It's natural for people to relieve themselves, but if it gets on their clothes, that's unacceptable. One of the teachers argued that clothing was not only meant to cover the body but also represented social status. Therefore, some inconveniences should be tolerated. With his modern mindset, Jinho immediately interrupted the teacher. Even if someone wears tattered clothes, their virtue will still shine in this world. Don't you see that judging a person's status based on their attire is outdated? The teachers fell silent, realizing they could not argue with him. They quickly changed the subject. One of them said, "This is not something that can be solved overnight, Your Highness. Do you have any other questions?" Jinho cursed them in his mind, annoyed by their evasiveness. He continued his discussion. Recently, I read a report about the invasion of Tsushima Island. It was said that everyone, from nobles to commoners, had to enlist because the defense forces were severely lacking. Why don't we train a naval fleet? Jinho fired a barrage of questions, leaving the teachers stuttering. It seemed they were completely at a loss. I also want to know, why didn't we evacuate the civilians from the island? If you're worried about Japanese pirates occupying the land, wouldn't it be better to relocate the people to the north? The more Jinho spoke, the more the teachers began to sweat. They never expected the Crown Prince to be so knowledgeable about national affairs. But no matter how much Jinho pressed them, the old foxes insisted that this was beyond their control. Hearing this only made Jinho angrier, but there was nothing he could do. After that incident, the old scholars began gathering to talk in secret. They were amazed at how intelligent the Crown Prince was. Even though he was only 5 years old, he was already smarter than his own teachers. They discussed among themselves, saying that if the Crown Prince was already this brilliant, they should start teaching him more advanced topics. Once he ascended the throne, he would surely become a wise and remarkable emperor. Meanwhile, Jinho in the palace had no idea that he had just made his own life more difficult. In reality, Jinho hated studying, and now they were going to make him study even more. Jinho was still upset with the old scholars for their arrogance. According to history, the original owner of this body would die young due to overwork. Jinho had planned to start taking action when he turned 10, but given the current situation, he realized he needed to act sooner. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye, and now Jinho was 7 years old. He was officially crowned as the Crown Prince in front of the entire court. The ancient rituals were too complicated and tedious, making him feel utterly exhausted. However, after years of grueling studies, he had finally secured his rightful position as Crown Prince. Now, he was allowed to participate in court sessions alongside his father and the ministers. There, he could propose some plans to develop the country, strengthen its wealth, and solidify its power. However, the biggest problem was that the kingdom didn't have enough funds to operate. Even though he had been crowned Crown Prince, he was still just a 7-year-old child with no real power. No one would listen to him. He couldn't just sit still. He needed to start small. Jinho wrote on a piece of paper, only to smudge ink all over it. So annoying, he muttered. No matter how many times he used the brush, he just couldn't get used to it. This era. Suddenly, an idea popped into his mind. Ah, that's it. Instead of tackling major reforms, I should start with this small inconvenience. Outside, the blacksmith workshop was busy forging hot iron, shaping it into various weapons. This was the military supply division, the imperial facility responsible for weapon production. As Jinho passed by, the sight excited him just from the smell of hot metal. I miss the smell of metal. He planned to come here more often to get to know the people. A supervising officer approached him, bowing deeply to greet the Crown Prince. Jinho smiled and responded, "It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for your hard work. Thanks to your efforts, Joseon's defenses grow stronger every day." The man's name was Lee Chang'o, the overseer of the military supply division. Humbled by the prince's praise, he replied, "It is an honor, Your Highness." Jinho cleared his throat and got straight to the point. "I'm here looking for someone who is the best craftsman here when it comes to handling metal and gold." Lee Chang'o pondered for a moment before replying, "There is someone who might be able to help." Lee Chang'o quickly summoned the blacksmith in question. As soon as the man saw the Crown Prince, he knelt and bowed deeply, saying, "This humble servant greets Your Highness, the Crown Prince." Jinho humbly replied, "Oh, don't say that. How can someone working in the military supply division, responsible for strengthening Joseon's defense, be considered lowly?" The blacksmith quickly responded, "Your Highness is right. Your kindness knows no bounds." Then, Jinho took out a scroll and said, "Come closer, I have something I want to ask you." He placed the blueprint on the table and asked, "Can you make this?" The blacksmith examined the sketch with a puzzled expression and asked, "What is this?" Jinho placed the scroll down and explained that it was a replacement for the brush. The blacksmith's face showed clear astonishment. It looked like something that could hold ink inside and release it while writing, but the most crucial part seemed to be controlling the amount of ink that flowed out with each press. Jinho was delighted to see that the blacksmith had grasped his idea perfectly. Additionally, there needs to be a small round bead at the tip to prevent too much ink from soaking into the paper. More importantly, can you make the slit where the ink flows out as narrow as possible? The blacksmith replied honestly, "If I do my best, I think I can make it around 5 mo. Jinho started calculating in his head. 5 mo was about 3 centimeters, so 1/10 of that would be roughly 0.15 centimeters. Jinho was surprised that the blacksmith could estimate it so accurately. However, we need to produce many of these pens, and they must be finished as soon as possible, not within a month. Since the tip of the pen will be in contact with liquid, we should use gold and silver to prevent rusting. These will be made by hammering thin plates, so if we create the mold properly, we can produce about 20 pieces per day. The blacksmith pointed at the drawing and said, "The main issue is this slit." Jinho continued discussing the details with the blacksmith. When writing, the slit needed to be as thin as a strand of hair. Jinho muttered to himself, "About the size of a mechanical pencil tip, maybe 0.5 millimeters should be enough." After some calculations, The blacksmith decided on a specific size. Jinho asked seriously, "How long will it take to complete?" The blacksmith replied, "If you give me 2 days, I'll give you 3 days, and bring me your best final product." The blacksmith gladly accepted the crown prince's request. 3 days later, the blacksmith presented the finished product. He had made 5 different pen tips, each with a slightly different slit thickness. The blacksmith said, "Please try them and choose the one you prefer." Jinho attached the pen tip to the pen body and nodded. Carefully, he dipped the tip into the ink tray and made a quick stroke on the paper. The pen tip produced an elegant, smooth line, exceeding his expectations. Jinho smiled in satisfaction while the 2 craftsmen stood in awe. "I love it. You did an outstanding job," Jinho praised. "It was all thanks to your guidance, Your Highness," the blacksmith humbly replied. After testing all the pen nibs provided, Jinho chose one and ordered 100 more in the selected size. He also added a special request for 10 pens to be engraved with a plum blossom design on their golden bodies. Without hesitation, the blacksmith agreed to Jinho's request. After concluding their discussion, Jinho quickly left the workshop. Li Chang-ho remarked, "His Highness is truly mature for his age." Gong nodded in agreement and said, "I heard he just turned 8 this year, but the way he speaks and acts is more like a 30-year-old Li Chang-ho." Li Chang-ho turned to him and said, "Look at yourself, you've received something truly great." In Gong's hands was a piece of paper with the words, "The greatest craftsman of Joseon," written on it, stamped with the handprint of Crown Prince Yi Hyang. This revealed that Jinho's name in this life was Yi Hyang. Gong deeply treasured the gift. He even planned to find the best carpenter to craft a frame for the certificate given by Crown Prince Hyang, intending to keep it as a family heirloom. Finally, the pen nibs requested by Crown Prince Yi Hyang were completed, with intricate plum blossom engravings decorating them. The pen glided gracefully across the paper, producing beautifully smooth lines. When King Sejong tried it, he was utterly amazed by the pen created by Crown Prince Yi Hyang. In the 3rd year of King Sejong's reign, the Crown Prince presented the golden pen to him. After testing it, King Sejong couldn't stop praising it. Writing with this pen made his wrist and arm feel incredibly comfortable. Even when writing quickly, the strokes remained elegant. King Sejong said, "The Crown Prince has created something truly remarkable." With humility, the Crown Prince responded that he was unsure how to react, as he felt unworthy of such praise from King Sejong. King Sejong then ordered the royal historians to record what the Crown Prince had accomplished that day. The historians bowed and acknowledged the command. King Sejong repeatedly admired the pen, then noticed something special. "Is this a plum blossom?" The Crown Prince quickly answered, "Yes, it is a plum blossom engraved on the pen nib, as it is the symbol of the royal family." The more the Crown Prince explained, the prouder King Sejong became. "This is truly impressive. But how did the Crown Prince come up with this idea?" As expected, the king was curious about the inspiration behind the Crown Prince's creation. The Crown Prince paused for a moment, thinking to himself, "The video ends here, but the story isn't over yet." If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps this channel grow. Thank you for watching.